guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry it's been a couple of weeks again. I just keep struggling to find the time to do these videos, but want to keep bringing them as much as I can. So anyway, here's a probably relatively short, quick video today, all about signs before you get your first period. I often get asked on my Instagram stories what sort of signs I saw before I got my first period. And I think it's because a lot of girls start getting different signs and symptoms, and they want to know, obviously, if that could be signs that their first period is about to come. So I just thought I'd go through ones that I generally saw and a few others that I've heard from other people that they got prior to getting their first period back. So just a really brief overview. I was in sort of an all-in process for about 3 months before I got my period back. But I hadn't had a period for about a year, but it took me 3 months of trying to get my period back to actually then get it back. And I've actually done like a couple of videos on kind of a larger overview of exactly why I had HA, how I got my period back. I've done videos such as top 10 tips on getting your period back, the nutrition I followed, the exercise. So yeah, I've done lots of videos if you want to know a little bit more about my kind of journey with HA. And like I said, this one's just going to be a bit of a short and snappy of some of the signs and symptoms I got. So the first signs that I noticed was actually fluctuation in weight, which I would have never thought would have been a sign. It wasn't something I'd heard of. I actually put it on my Instagram story saying for some reason I'd lost like 2 pounds overnight. I didn't weigh myself that regularly, but I knew roughly what weight I was. And for all of a sudden for me to have dropped weight, that was obviously like a big change, because I'd just been used to seeing the scales go up and up and up with obviously the increase in calories. So I was kind of really thrown by it, and I think I put something on my stories, and actually a nutritionist kind of got back to me and said this could be a good sign, because obviously it could be a sign that actually often a woman, if they've got the hormones at the right levels and they're going through a normal cycle, their weight fluctuates all the time. My weight had always been like just stagnant across a month because I wasn't getting the fluctuations in hormones. So she said, she was like, oh, this could be a good sign. It could be that your hormones are now going through the cycles that they should be, and that's why you're seeing a fluctuation. But yeah, I didn't want to read too much into it at the time, because obviously I didn't want to suddenly think, oh, this could be it. And that was 2 weeks before my period. So obviously that would have been around ovulation, which I didn't know at the time. And from there, I started getting more and more symptoms. So other things I noticed were I got really sore boobs, which is something I hadn't felt in years, because although I got a period when I was on the pill, you don't obviously get those kind of symptoms because it's not an actual period. So yeah, they just kind of felt really sensitive. They weren't like kind of sore, but just I noticed they felt different anyway. And definitely bigger, which obviously was partly to do with weight gain, but I kind of felt they felt like even more so at that point. I definitely noticed an increase in cervical mucus. At least it's just girls watching this video, because yeah, if boys were watching this it'd be a bit weird. But yeah, you all know what I'm talking about. I started noticing cervical mucus, which I again not had in a long time. I noticed that was increasing, and probably for about 3 or 4 days before I actually got my period back, I was getting some spotting within that as well, and slight discoloration of the cervical mucus. So that was like probably about 3 or 4 days before my period came back, I noticed that. So again, a bit of spotting, that was another symptom. I generally, I went from feeling like amazing to then gradually having various different mood swings and being more emotional, which again is something, I'm not an emotional person. So for me, that was a big difference. I was like, whoa, why do I feel like I just want to burst out crying over nothing? And I actually did a few times. So it was over something stupid at work. I came back and I just burst into tears, and I was like, wow, where did that come from? Just totally not like me whatsoever. So straight away, I was like, this is really strange. So yeah, I'd gone from feeling like amazing, top of the world, which was probably obviously around ovulation, to then I noticed, yeah, just different like mood swings, like days feeling really like down, and yeah, these were all things I would never normally experience. So those were quite like strong indicators for me. And like I said, I was just crying over nothing, as you do. I noticed things like my hair started feeling fuller, like my skin felt good. Like I generally just felt, although I'm saying I had like mood swings and I was sometimes emotional, I generally felt good in myself. So like Like I say, yeah, my hair felt better, like my skin felt better, less dry, just little things like that I just was starting to notice. I'd noticed them gradually over the weight gain as well, because those are the things I think just came with eating more, particularly things like your skin, you're nourishing your body more, your skin is going to then look better. But I noticed like an increase in that in those couple of weeks. I definitely had, like, my digestion was a bit off. I love a bit of Coke Zero, definitely my weakness. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, bloating. So I maybe got a bit of bloating in the first couple of weeks when I started to increase calories. So when I went straight up to 2,500, I did get a bit of bloating, because obviously I was eating all of a sudden like 500 extra calories a day. But actually what I then noticed in these couple of weeks before I got my first period back was an increase in bloating, which was quite unusual for me because I just hadn't got that except those first couple of weeks of going all in. So that was a big change for me. My digestion and gut just generally felt a bit funny, which again, I used to, going back to when I used to get periods pre-pill, so like a lot of years ago, I used to remember I always had a bit of a dodgy stomach like a few days before. Probably too much information, but I've always had that, and actually I still get that now. So I take a probiotic and that really helps, and I talked a little bit about that on my supplement video. But yeah, so I noticed bloating, and I think those were probably the main signs and symptoms. I know some people sometimes maybe get like some spots and things like that if they've been prone to that in the past when their hormones were regular. I know you can, if you feel like you might be showing some signs, you can go and get your blood tests redone and see whether there has been an increase in your hormones, an increase in your LH hormone levels, because that can be an indication of if your period is coming or not. But I didn't do any of those things. I kind of just trusted the process. I knew the signs that I was getting were probably my period coming, and it was. So those are probably the main ones I can think of, but there may be more signs that other people get that maybe I didn't get. And I know some people say they get all these signs and symptoms and then their period just doesn't come. And I think sometimes it's your body, it's a good sign because your body's getting to the point where it can almost trust you almost to have a period, but then something maybe happens or it just doesn't quite reach that level. So you might get some of those early signs, but it doesn't quite reach the level high enough to get your period back. So if you're getting those signs and symptoms but nothing's happening, I would just say keep doing as you were doing, or even do more so if you can, because you might just need to give your body that just little extra push for it to fully trust you in order to have that period. Oh, and another one I did get was a few cramps 3 or 4 days before. Again, that was something obviously I never got when I was on the pill, because again, it wasn't a real period, so I knew that was something very different for me because I had not had cramps in years. And they were just, yeah, about 3 or 4 days before I was getting like some light cramps. And I suppose in a way, I just had a gut feeling at that point then. I think you sometimes just can tell in your body, you know if your body feels like ready almost. And like I say, that's kind of then when I got my first period. So I hope that was useful. If you've got any questions, as always, pop them below. Like I say, we're all different. Some might not get many signs and their period comes. Some might get more and their period comes. It really just depends. And, you know, always seek advice from your GP or a health professional if you're not quite sure on some of the signs and symptoms that you're seeing. And like I say, there is options of getting things like blood tests just to see if there has been a change in hormonal levels. I'm hoping to do a full day of eating video soon because that has been requested, and I might do a little video with an update on kind of what I'm doing right now in terms of training and nutrition, if you guys would be interested in seeing that, because it has changed a little bit. But yeah, thanks again for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.